Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be looking at 10 players the Saudi Arabia PIF will attempt to sign for Newcastle in the January transfer window. Now, unlike in previous seasons, it's going to be a bit harder this year to predict because, well, there's a World Cup on, so the World Cup will heavily dictate Newcastle's window because, well, the best performing players at the World Cup, for example, some of the players I say in this video might get injured at the World Cup, so it's one of them ones where I had to come back again after the World Cup's done. But as for now, Newcastle at this current time, behind the scenes, they will be getting that wish list out. They will be looking at those players. They'll be inquiring with their scouts. They'll be looking across worldwide, and they'll be almost plotting how the window is going to go. If you remember Newcastle's first January transfer window, Kieran Trippier was the first signing that came in a couple of days into the window, and he was saying how the ownership was contacting them weeks in advance, obviously planting the seeds for when that window opened. Expect that to happen again now. But anyway, if you're new around here, make sure to get down there, subscribe, smash the like button this one, and whenever that window does open, we'll get into all the news. But for now, though, plenty of England content, plenty of Newcastle content. And yeah, as for the 10 players I will say in this video, let me know down in the comment section your thoughts on them. You'd be surprised at how almost easy it is to actually go through these players, because I'll tell you why in just a bit. We can actually predict what players Newcastle will sign in January just due to how the market works now. First off, and let's get the obvious one out of the way first, James Maddison. That was a player that Newcastle went in for twice in the summer window. Both times putting bids in upwards of £50 million, trying to bring him in as our key catalyst signing. It didn't happen. We eventually switched and went for Isaac. But the thing with Maddison being is that, well, his contract is coming to an end. I will get into contracts a lot more in a bit, but his transfer value will decrease. And with Leicester, it's not the greatest of time because Leicester, over the last few weeks, has started to gain some momentum and pick up some wins. But they've still had quite a bad season so far in their point of view. And it's expected that they're not going to hit any form of European football, which means that their players will want out. A lot of their Leicester players as well are quite long-term players. Have been there a few seasons, a bit of a Leicester's glory years. But it's at that stage now where Leicester's kind of, it's almost past the rainbow. It's not really going to get back to where it once was, let's be honest. So with a player like Maddison, you see a club like Newcastle, a club that has been sniffing down his neck in that summer window of how well things have been going for us. That's another thing as well for Newcastle. When that window opens, we'll be top 4, top 6 if things go pear-shaped. So it'll be an extremely positive situation. When you think about it, you got likes of Trippier, Bruno coming in 19th in the table. Imagine when we're in the top 4. So players like Maddison will look at Newcastle's projections. They'll be extremely interested in the project of the club. And Maddison's one I expect straight away Newcastle to go back in for. And speaking of the club's persistence for going in for the players they tried to sign in previous windows, we saw with Botman, couldn't get him in last January, we signed him in the summer instead. João Pedro, he's the second player straight we want to look at. So João Pedro was actually quoted by Fabrizio Romano for being a done deal. That's how close that one was for Newcastle. Journalists were coming out and saying that it was a done deal. But last minute, Newcastle performed the U-turn going for Isaac. But João Pedro was the one that the club really wanted to sign. And so far in the Championship this season for Watford, he's been playing very well. So it might be a bit harder getting now, because if the belief is that Watford will get promoted to the Premier League and João Pedro, chances are he might stay at the club and see out his time at Watford and see if the club gets promoted first. But if Newcastle put enough zeros in that contract, if they really want to sign João Pedro, then that's when I expect the club to make. But it's whether the club goes back in form, which I believe they will do, but I'm not sure they'll go in as deep as they did last time. I think it's just, they'll put a bid in, see what happens, and if not, they'll move on straight away, I believe, with this sort of player. Moussa Diaby is the next one that Newcastle were heavily interested in signing back in the summer break. However, at the time, he stated that he wanted to stay at Bayer Leverkusen, had no intentions of leaving at all. But with their season so far, they've had a bad season. Moussa Diaby himself has had a bit of a dodgy start of the season. It might be at that stage where he thinks, ooh, did I make the right choice of staying at Leverkusen? And with a team like Newcastle, now, this is quite complicated because Newcastle were really interested in getting wingers in at the time, at the summer break. But Almiron has turned up out of nowhere, which could potentially mean that Newcastle might want to prioritise their funds elsewhere. I think centre mids and centre backs is especially an issue, because now I believe Dan Burn is more or less a left back, to be honest. So that means we've got 2 centre halves really. If Botman or Shaw gets injured, you've got Lascelles coming in, that's it. And as for the potential centre halves Newcastle could bring in January, I'm honestly not sure on that area, to be honest, because, well, You look at the likes of Botman, who we brought in as a sign, like, who out there is honestly better than the likes of Botman? Like, it's crazy how good a defender he is, and he's at that stage now where if Newcastle bring a centre-half in, well, he's got to be up there with the best. It's very hard to do that in this window, so I'm honestly not sure at the minute. But as for the attacking players, there's so many options, and I'll explain the little loophole in the transfer market, how Newcastle, I believe, will utilise it. Now, one thing the next 7 players all have in common is that their contracts expire at the end of this season. Now, keep that in mind because, well, technically, if Newcastle really wanted to, they could sign the player in January but not have them play into the summer, so they could get him on a free. But like what we did with Garankio, so he's signed a few months back, but he's not legally allowed to play for Newcastle until after January. So that's kind of what we could do with our players. So pretty much the idea that being that we sign them on a free, we get them in the summertime, ready to go straight away for that European football. But Newcastle do need to sign some players in January for January. So yeah, keep that in mind. But it's extremely intriguing to see how the club's going to operate, because there's so many good players that are going to expire at the end of this season. So keep an eye out for that. I expect the club to utilise that, as well as the loan market as well. I'm not sure what players we could loan, but we haven't loaned anyone this season yet. So yeah, there's a heads up for you there. But the first one, Wilfred Zaha. Now, that's a player you never ever think's going to leave Crystal Palace, but finally that long contract of his is coming to an end. Has he had enough of Palace? It's always quite hard to call Crystal Palace because he seems to enjoy his time there. He seems to like playing there. But if he wants to get further on in his career, once that European football wants to win silverware, then he won't have a better chance than now. That contract has expires in the summer. Newcastle won't be the only team, mind, but it will definitely be a team that will be sniffing all over Zaha. A lot of teams out there will want to play his calibre into their football club. He's an exceptional player, and with all due respect to Crystal Palace, is probably too good to play for them, to be honest. The guy is incredible. He honestly should be playing for a Champions League club, in my opinion. So yeah, he will be coming available at the end of the season if he doesn't extend his contract. So a team like Newcastle will be all over that in January, trying to get him on that expiry date, if not in the summer. Well, we already spoke about James Maddison earlier on. Let's speak about his Leicester teammate now, Youri Tielemans, now the other midfielder. A problem with him being is that his wages is an issue, so if Newcastle can work around that, then that's when the club will try and get him. But his contract does expire at the end of the season, so if Newcastle are obviously willing to negotiate with Tielemans, then that could be one the club brings in. However, as I stated though, I expect a similar thing with Zaha to happen, so a lot of teams will be sniffing him down. There'll be a team out there. You see with Lingard, because Lingard was a player that Newcastle really wanted to bring in. All of a sudden Lingard comes out, I want 200 grand a week. You're thinking nobody's going to do it. Then Nottingham Forest comes out of nowhere and does it. So the thing is, players will offer ridiculous wages nowadays, and there's clubs out there sometimes that are willing to do it. So he'll be quite a hard one to bring in, but I still think the club will attempt to sign him. I just, personally for me, I think it's going to be quite a tough ask to bring in. Next up, Memphis Depay, the free agent at the end of the season, the current Barcelona attacking player. Now, this is a player that I've been screaming for in that summer transfer window. I was saying, if it's possible, bring Depay in. I think he's an incredible player. I think he's somebody that will help the club progress forward. But a lot of people at the time were saying, well, Adam, we're a mid-table Premier League side. Depay clearly wants European football. Why would he sign for us? Well, a few months later, we seem to be in that position now where we can attract these sort of players to come in. And I state it again, I think Depay is an exceptional football player. I know we have 2 strikers, but he's still someone that the club will be looking to bring in. With Wilson, he's going to the World Cup. Obviously, we have to see how he gets on the World Cup. I'm pleading to God he doesn't get injured, but we have to be, ready for someone like that happening. He's one I think the club will look at. I think he's a brilliant football player, and as I said before, free agent at the end of the season. If Newcastle want him, go out and get him. I think we've got a very attractable club now to bring in that sort of player. Trossard, the current Brighton winger, that was one that Newcastle were heavily consider bringing in that summer transfer window. But so far this season, despite Graham Potter jumping ship to go to Chelsea, Brighton have still had a very good start of the season. However, with them, I am expecting them to drop off at some point. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm expecting them slowly over time to gradually drop out of that top 8. I don't think they're going to finish in the top 8 this season. And as I said before, again, with these sort of players becoming free agents at the end of the season, I think this is quite a tough ask in January, because Brighton will be desperate to keep a hold of their best performing players. This is a guy that scored 7 and 14 this season. He's on, similar stats to Aaron. He's been sensational for us. So this is a player this season that has been performing very well. I'm expecting Brighton to almost be sticking everything they got into keeping these sort of players at the club. But expect Newcastle to be looking at these sort of players. This will be one in the summer window. I think it'll be something to keep an eye on for sure. But as for now, though, I expect Newcastle to attempt to bring him in. Don't see it happening, to be honest. I think Brighton are going to do a good job of keeping hold of their players. They're a very smart club when it comes to buying and selling. Marcos Asensio, the current Real Madrid midfielder, he's just played the 9 times this season. He's struggling to find his mark at the club. He's been there for several years now, but his contract is finally coming to an end in the summertime. I don't believe he will extend his contract. I believe he will leave in the summer. But what club he goes to is, well, another question. Newcastle, I believe, is a club out there that will go in for him. We were heavily... I guess we were linked to in the summer. I think I was more one of those clickbaity Spanish articles, to be honest. There've been loads of those directed towards the likes of Asensio in the summer. But I actually genuinely believe that's someone the club will try and get. As I said before, midfielder-wise, we need midfielders in that are going to help the squad out. I like Sean Longstaff. He's obviously doing something correct because we're fourth in the table. We're third, sorry. And this guy is playing every single week, so he has to be doing something correct. But I think we need the depth there. I think someone like Asensio needs to be playing on a regular basis at a football club, and I believe at Newcastle he will get that. So, yeah, I believe the club will attempt to bring him in. We'll have a look on January, see what happens. But, yeah, keep an eye out for him because he'll pop in the media constantly for Newcastle. Former Atletico Madrid teammate for Kieran Trippier, Thomas Lemar, becomes a free agent at the end of the season. Played 9 times this season, scored 0. So, yeah, a bit of a gamble trying to bring him in. But I feel like at the minute, Almond's been amazing. St. Maxwell has obviously still got injury issues. He's not really 100%. He's not match fit, I would say. He's been occasionally playing, but overall he seems to be a bit all over the place at the minute. So Newcastle definitely do need to sign a winger at some point. Now, to be fair with Atletico Madrid, I know Renan Lodi was someone the club was really looking to bring in before we signed Matt Target. He's not been the greatest, to be honest, at Nottingham Forest. So even though he's from an amazing European club, it doesn't guarantee success, doesn't guarantee him being a good football player. So Lamar's a bit of a gamble, but for me, again, I expect the club to try and bring him in. We need a winger at some point. So yeah, fully expect the club to go in for him. And now, last but not least, a very exciting player. I think the most ambitious sign out of pretty much everyone on this list, I would say, Turan from the Bundesliga. He's played 15 times this season, scored 10. This guy is not messing around the series. His contract expires at the end of the season. I'm fully expecting that to be renewed, to say the least. Unless the player is desperate to leave, which, let's be honest, he's probably in the form of his life right now. So, no, that's not going to happen. But I still believe Newcastle will be inquiring now. Listen, you interested? We want to get you. It'll be one of those sort of ones. I expect his contract to be renewed, but I think Newcastle in that summer window, yeah, he'll be all over someone like him. We'll be putting that mega bid in, trying to make that key catalyst sign for next season. But the reason why I'm including him in this video is if the contract doesn't get renewed. So, January time, Newcastle, knock on the door. But yeah, knocking down that sort of player. Just an incredible start to the season for him. But anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts down below. Now, I will do a second video to this once the World Cup's over. As I said, it heavily dictates it. But for now, though, I wanted to kind of excite you guys. I expect these sort of players to be heavily linked once that window opens. I expect these sort of players to pop up in the media. These players will be all over the media. So, yeah, for now, I thought I'd plant the seeds, let you guys know what sort of players Newcastle will be looking to bring in. And then once that window opens, we'll get through all that transfer news and we'll see which ones become a reality. Thank you guys for watching, though. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I will see you all in the next one.